Let's look at another scenario now where I'm going to accidentally end up with duplicate samples on my flashboard. I'm going to kind of repeat the steps where I've got everything is already loaded in here, but I'm going to go back to the all type file, and I'm going to select the load operation, and I'm going to select Bee's Knees, the organs library again, and I'm going to have all these boxes checked, and I'm going to go, yeah, I'm going to load that. So press execute, it loads the Bee's Knees file, and once this is done, it will say completed. I check to make sure, and there's the B3 on user bank 3, and then I realize, uh-oh. And now, once again, I have lost that trumpet voice. I forgot, so I'm going to go back, and I'm going to say, well, you know what, I can load it back in again. So I go back to voice mode. I select my custom library. But you notice that this time, I forget to uncheck with waveform and with sample. Remember, the samples for this trumpet that I'm about to load are already in the flashboard, but I forget to uncheck these. I leave them checked on. I hit enter. I select where that voice was, user 3. There it is. I'm going to load it to, I can load it to any of these voice locations, but I'm going to load it to user 201. I'm going to execute. Watch what happens. It's going to say that it's burning the waveform to the flash module here in a moment. There's the message. Now installing to the flash memory module. And now it's loading the voice. And now I suddenly realize I have a problem. If I go back to File and hit Flash, and I look at the list of waveforms which are in the flash, you will see that 3 of them have been duplicated again. BR 001, 002, and 03 are also 005, 006, and 007. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete the duplicate waveforms on my flashboard just for safekeeping. So let's press File. I look for duplicate names. I see VC. These have been duplicated. So I want to delete. Now you can only delete one waveform at a time. So that when it's selected, I'm going to press Enter and then Enter again, and it's going to delete that waveform. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with this next duplicate waveform. Delete it, yes. Then this is another one that's duplicate. I'm going to delete that one. And as you can see, this is a very time-consuming task. So you want to try to avoid getting duplicate waveforms loaded in, because you can only delete them one at a time. So now, how do I correct this? I go back to File mode. I hit Load, which is F3. I make sure that these voices with waveform is unchecked. I locate my custom library. I hit user 3. I locate the first trumpet voice again. I'm going to load it to this same location. Now you see this time it did not install anything to the flash memory module, and it should. It has found the samples that it was originally associated with. And I'm back in business. This brings up a point I'd like to make. When in doubt, if you get confused and you don't remember what waveforms went with which voice, which is really easy to do. A lot of people don't take the time to bother to make an Excel sheet documenting that, you know, voices 21 and 22 used waveforms 0019, 0027, and that's a bunch of stuff that you cannot remember, or maybe you didn't do it in the first place. The best thing to do is to reformat your flashboard so you erase all the waveforms and then start over by loading in your voices again or loading in your libraries again. So when in doubt, always reformat the flashboard so that you have a clean slate and begin again. All right, so let's say now that we have our library and, you have flash samples and everything, and you're going to go over and say, I'm going to go over to user bank 3, and I'm going to look at this voice called the B3, and what I'd like to do is maybe change a little bit of something about it. Maybe I'd like to set the reverb send a little bit more. So the reverb, I'm going to locate that page real quickly, and I'm going to make the reverb time a little bit longer. Okay, and then I'm going to store the voice again. I've made my changes. And this didn't make any other changes. It did not delete any samples, any waveforms, and I want to save the file again, but just with this little tweak. And I don't want to have to save all the samples that go along with it. So what I do is I hit File, set it to Voice, to File Type to All, leave, in this case I'm going to leave with System checked on, because that determines my MIDI transmit channels, whether local control is on or off, etc. But I'll leave with waveform unchecked. Okay, go down to Custom, and I'm going to go Execute. Actually, make sure that I have to save. I have to hit F2 save. Let me name this with a different name. Custom 2. Remember, this is just saved the tweaks to the voice. It hadn't changed anything with the samples. You see that the sample box is checked with sample. Uncheck it. Execute. And this will save the slightly tweaked library without saving the samples with it. And you see that that was really fast. Again, as you recall, I always recommend saving with the sample box checked, because you might have done some tweaks or whatever, but you wanted to say, okay, this is going to be my final version of this library, but if you don't save it with the samples, the next time that you go to load it, it's going to not load the samples that are associated with it. Say you had to erase your flashboard, or you went to a place where a guy had another Moxf and he had a different flashboard installed without your samples on it. Now you're out of luck because you don't have your samples with your library. So again, I don't recommend saving without the box unchecked for with sample, because you can just end up with tracking problems, losing track of the samples that belong to the voices and things like that. It just makes your housekeeping job that much more. But that's how you do it.